I am Annika Jackson, back with you for another week of Your Brand Amplified, here with Saul Colt, self-described smartest man in the world and founder of the Idea Integration Company. So much more, lots of accolades, but I'm going to let you do a little bit of giving yourself some accolades. So welcome, Saul.
Hi, well, thank you so much for having me on the show. This is very exciting. As you mentioned, my name is Saul Colt. I'm the founder of the Idea Integration Company. We're a 14-year-old non-traditional marketing firm that we specialize in content and branded content and sort of the stuff that a lot of people do. But what makes us really different is two main things. One, we have the guts to do things that very few people have, and we specialize really in like marketing stunts and things like that. And I know I said there's only one thing, but I guess two things that makes us different is besides our guts and our propensity for doing amazing things. Our creative team is also made up from alumni from the TV show The Simpsons and Mad Magazine.
Yeah.
So we've got a real depth of professionally funny people, and that's really what we specialize. We find the insight in the situation, the insight in your brand, and we make it funny, we make it irreverent, we make it salacious, whatever is sort of needed for the particular project.
Yeah, you make it fun again. I know that was
Mhm.
one thing that you commented on in my little notes is a lot of times traditional advertising and marketing is boring. Brands aren't doing enough to build excitement and to really get people thinking and talking about what they're doing.
Exactly. Like, I don't remember how many years ago, maybe 3 years ago at the Super Bowl, Nationwide Insurance had an ad where they killed a baby in a bathtub. Like, where's the joy in that? It's like buy our insurance and your kid won't die in a bathtub. Yeah, like, there's been so many surveys and reports and things from people smarter than me that say, the retention of ads and the retention of content of things that are funny are, it's in the high 80%.
Mhm.
People talk about things that are funny. People share things that are funny. Everybody wants to be funny. So if you give them something to joke about, or you give them something to repeat, that's a real foundational thing for marketing to get people to start carrying a message.
Absolutely. So where did your interest and agency foundation start? Were you at other agencies? Did you come from a comedic background? What made you want to do this work?
I'd say it's been a lifelong journey without realizing that this is where I'd end up. I started doing stand-up comedy when I was 13 years old. I wasn't great at it, but it was a
But you were
passion.
doing it. I
I was
mean,
doing it, and then from there, I worked in a family business that at the time I wasn't very inspired by, so I started creating comic books, and
hmm,
I built a semi-successful comic book publishing business, and then I through my comic book business, I got and I was doing all the marketing for my comic book business. I got a little bit of recognition, a little bit of notoriety, and I was able to, and I'm a classically trained marketer as well, went to school, but I was able to parlay that into jobs at some fancy companies, and I just sort of learned that I do things very differently, as well as I don't always work very well with like people for a very long term. So I started my own company out of necessity because I'm probably a little bit unemployable. I shouldn't say that in case I ever need a job. But I started out of necessity, but I also started it because I truly believed that I was doing something no one else was doing, or I had the capability of doing something that no one else was doing. And I still believe that to this day. And I think the fact that we've been around for 14 years and everything proves that. But at the same time, the style of work we do is really it is really more, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but it lends more to companies that really need like a boost, and
Hmm.
companies, so like some of the brands that we've worked with amazing recognizable brands, Nike, eBay, Twitter, companies that do not need help in any way. They've figured out a lot of stuff. They're just looking for new voices. But we've also worked with many companies that the only reason anybody knows about them is because we worked with them.
Wow.
And like I love working with companies that are willing to take chances and do some fun things, and play around with risk and being bold, because that's what gets noticed. And when I think of the marketing landscape right now, or even just the business landscape, man, the promise of social media has ruined a lot of lives, and it's made a lot of companies, but it's also destroyed a lot of people. And it's become too easy to have a really big voice, and companies don't always know what to do with that voice when they get it, and they don't know how to be interesting. I talked about Nationwide Insurance. Pabst Blue Ribbon at the beginning of the year put out a tweet about, and I don't know if I can be inappropriate on your show,
Go for it.
your lady, but they put out a tweet talking about eating ass. And it was just such a bizarre thing for any major brand to do. It was such a misfire when it comes to humor. That's why I always like to stress the fact that we're professionally funny people,
Yeah.
because when you put out an inappropriate tweet, like a recognizable brand saying that for the month of January people should be eating ass, it's obviously they took it down and it was screen grabbed and stuff like that, but it's not funny.
Right.
You can make a sexually subjective comment that's still within the bounds of good taste, or you could make something, but when you go too far out of the realm of what your customers expect of you, that's when people get in trouble. And so we've been able to really understand, like, our goal is to always push the limits and always to do the thing that people don't expect, but we also do a ton of research to understand where that line is,
Mhm.
that you can get away with and go right up to that line, maybe cross it by a couple baby steps. But when people don't do that research, that's when you get in trouble. That's when you get the crazy racist comments, because a lot of times the people running your social media are like the youngest people on the team or the most inexperienced
Yeah.
people on the team, and things like that. I don't even remember what the question was. I don't think I answered it. I went on a crazy tangent. I just wanted to say eating ass.
Yeah.
You didn't even blink, by the way. You're a professional. There was no cringing whatsoever.
No.
But maybe I'll get the next question better.
Oh, no. I mean, this is what I love about my format is I like the free form. I want to just
Mhm.
see where things go. But I
Mhm.
do want to talk. So you've talked about some brands that didn't work, that you obviously did not work with them either, because you would
Mhm.
not have directed them that way. But your work has been featured in several books, articles, a lot of accolades for campaigns you have done for brands.
Mhm.
So would you be willing to share some of those for any of our audience that might not be as familiar?
Yeah, of course. So, something I talk about all the time, and people who are familiar are probably tired of hearing the story, but I love the story. Is we were the first brand, the first agency, whatever we want to call ourselves, to use skywriting to
Mhm.
promote a cloud-based service. So, when I talked earlier about, we find that insight or that nugget, a lot of what we do in our brainstorming is literally just asking ourselves, wouldn't it be cool if? But we do also a ton of research on, what's been done before, what was received well, what wasn't received well, what could we get away with, what's truly unique. And through our research, we realized that the word cloud for cloud-based services is it's such a prominent part of our vocabulary now, but no one had actually used clouds to promote a cloud-based service. So we decided to do that. And we hired 5 planes to do skywriting, and we did it in San Francisco. We did it during the National League playoff series, and we did it right on top of the AT&T Park, where
Mm.
the San Francisco Giants play. So, and when I say we do a lot of research, the reason we did it on top of the baseball stadium is we knew there'd be 35, 40,000 people in the building to see it. We knew TV cameras would be there. There also happened to be a tech conference, which was our target market for this
Nice.
brand, just like a mile away. And we knew that our message was going to be 9 miles long.
Oh my gosh.
You don't realize in skywriting that it's not a small thing. It was a 9 mile long thing. So we did it, and a couple interesting things happened. This is about 7 years ago or so, but we owned Twitter. Well, I shouldn't say we owned it, but we were the highest ranking thing on Twitter for about a 20-minute period. We were the highest ranking thing on Instagram for a 15, 20-minute period. But when you think of those things are all wonderful, the goal of doing stunts, though, is always to build a brand, but also sell whatever you're selling.
Yeah.
So it was a first few days after, there was an enormous amount of uptake in the product. We did it for Xero, the online invoicing platform. And we put in the clouds, we put Xero, beautiful cloud accounting, and like Xero.com. But we got a lot of media coverage because it actually covered most of the city of San Francisco, could be seen from all over. The CEO, and you got to remember, it's a New Zealand-based company. The CEO of the company was getting text messages from people in New Zealand or from New Zealand who were vacationing in California.
Oh my gosh.
Saying, this is the coolest thing we've ever seen. I'm not even sure if he knew we were doing it.
Wow.
And the CEO sent me a video probably 3-4 years ago, where they did a user conference and they had like a little phone booth where people could make videos, and it was, how did you hear about us? And 20% of the messages said, I heard about or I saw the skywriting, and I knew this was a brand that we had to know a little bit more about. We did our research and we realized it was for us. So I'm enormously proud of the skywriting. I think just from a spectacle standpoint, it's really cool. I love the results of it. And it's like, we've got amazing video and photographs that I dig out anytime I can, whenever people ask. But
Yeah.
we've done tons of things. We've done 2 cross-country tours. For there was a company we work with named Hubba, which was they were a discovery platform for small brands looking to partner with a Target or a Walmart and things like that. And because these were small brands, we started in Los Angeles. We drove from Los Angeles to New York City, and we did it in 14 days. We stopped in, and I don't remember how many times we stopped. I think we stopped in 17 cities or something like that. And we made like a video, studio in a car, and we created brand videos for I think we'd made 45 different brand videos for the brands along the way on our journey. We also filmed the brands. We created a really interesting piece of content that they could use to pitch their product and try to get into these larger big box things. But we also created video and content of our whole journey, and created like a mini documentary of what it's like to turn videos around in 24 hours and sleep in your car and basically break a car. We had to take it back to the rental car, pretend it was an accident, even though it wasn't, and all sorts of stuff. So over the course of the last 14 years, we've done thousands of strategy documents. We've done thousands of things that you don't see and you don't touch. And, even if it's just looking at a company and saying you should do this, and this, just to fix a few things. But, the spectacle stuff that we have done is one, it's the most fun to do. It's always the most fun to talk about. And, it's kind of what we're known for, and, stuff. But we've named 100 companies. We've created 1,000 logos. We do kind of everything, but, it's the skywriting and stuff is the thing that we really get the most excited about.
Well, I got chills when you were telling that story, because as a brand marketer, that's the ultimate, is to know that years later, people are still going to that brand because of the work that you did. It takes me back to like some of my favorite memories in my career, because I started out promoting clubs and DJs in the Midwest and Chicago, and then kind of moved into marketing and magazines. Was doing not that large scale, but doing like launching a dance music magazine called Revolution. And we did a 6-week summer tour with DJs on a tour bus that was wrapped by our sponsors, and things like that, where you're touching the audience and you're really creating those experiences that people will remember and associate with you and well, maybe not you, but with your client.
Mhm. And so that's very cool. I truly believe that, spending the last 2 years for the most part in our homes
Yeah.
and thing. I know we're not completely free and clear from COVID just yet. And I was reading yesterday about monkeypox. I don't even know what that
Oh
is, and
yeah.
I'm ready to lock my doors again and never leave. But man, people miss people. And, I was in New York a couple weekends ago for work, and it's so nice to be around people again and to invest in that. And I really think the brands who invest heavily in the next 12 months in experiences are going to see their return on investment, as much as 5-fold return to them, because people are craving interaction again, which is nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I've noticed that too. People want to have meetings in person again and go to
Mhm.
events. Or like last night, I went to Cigaros, and it was just full of people, and just everybody was so excited to be out in like a really amazing venue and a really amazing show.
Mhm.
And we're like, wow. I mean, I've been to a couple small shows, but I haven't been anything like this since the pandemic
Mhm.
started.
Mhm.
So, what are some of the differences you've seen, if there are any, from when you started your company to now in the marketing landscape?
Well, I'd say that, it's funny. I don't know if there's differences. I'd say that things definitely go in waves. You see, like, I'm old. I've been doing this a long time. You see things like events and experiences sort of become the thing and then not the thing, and
Mm,
then the thing again. Obviously everything is pushed to a digital perspective now, where when I started, it wasn't as digital based. I think that, when I look at everything, your email campaigns, your paid advertising, your inbound and outbound, all that stuff, that's what I consider foundational marketing. And I think every company should be doing it. And
mm,
even though that's not our area of expertise, I would never tell people only do what we do and
mm,
ignore all that stuff. You have to do all the foundational stuff. But I think that, if anything's become, different, I'd say selling what we do has become a little easier,
mm.
only because we've proven ourselves over and over and over many years, where, early in 10 years ago or 12 years ago, to tell people we're going to do something crazy and it's going to cost a fair bit of money, it was always just, well, I'll just buy more Facebook ads, or there's this thing I heard about called Snapchat. Let's go dive in there and stuff like that. So there is an understanding of how important, non-digital activities are, and
Mhm.
even just brand building stuff. There's a lot of people who don't really, invest in their own brand, which is
Yep.
a shame, and they don't invest in their customers, which is a shame. But I'd say in the last 2-3 years, a big mistake that a lot of companies have made is to ignore their customer base.
Mm.
And when I say ignore, they're probably, well, ignore isn't the word I'm looking for, but I'm just going to talk it through and we'll figure out what word I'm looking for. But the last 2 years, the shiniest word in marketing was digital transformation. And what that meant was, any company that I've ever dealt with in the last 20 years who had an email address of mine is all of a sudden emailing me, even though I
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
interacted with them in 5, 6, 7 years. I'm getting emails from, a restaurant, 3,000 miles from where I live, just because somebody came in and said the pandemic is on, you've got to start sending an email every day. Like, oh my God, the Gap, it's they, I bought a sweatshirt as a gift for somebody from the Gap, and I was getting 4 emails a day
Oh,
from the Gap. Like, that's not what customers want. That's not what, if you're going to send an email, it better be so interesting and so captivating that I want to open it and I want to share it. Don't just send me like BOGO coupons over and over and over. And don't just send me like marketing. Some people, like there's people who do an amazing job. So I don't want to generalize, but to some people, marketing is a race to the bottom. It's just sales, sales, sales. And how can I discount my product? How can I, just move things out the door, when sales should always be your number one priority, because you got to sell stuff to keep the lights on and things like that. But there's better ways to sell, and there's better ways to get full price. And there's, like, people should want to buy from you. They shouldn't
right.
feel like they need to buy from you this minute because, a false sense of urgency or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like we used to not want to get, you get so much junk mail in your mailbox.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's decreased, and all the junk mail's in my email. And now I like it when somebody sends me something interesting or unique, or they send me a gift card to some website to pick my own gift. And I get to pick something for myself, for my dogs or my kid or whatever.
Mhm.
So I feel, and that's like, it creates a little mini experience. Right. And so I
Exactly.
completely agree that people want those touch points, that authenticity and that like new, fresh perspective. It's like everything old is fresh again.
Yeah, it's funny. Most brands have more information about their customers than they've ever had in the history of ever. And and they keep asking us for more information, but nobody actually uses that information.
Right.
Like, I've given my birthday to, I don't know, 100 brands over the course of 20 years or so. Nobody sends me a birthday like card or anything like that. Like, it's so strange that we've handed over our our profiles to people, and we've given up any idea of privacy, but brands don't actually use it to their benefit to create loyalty or to create any sort of relationship with people. So, like, and I've, like, I work in the industry, I know how this stuff works. So I don't pretend there's any shred of privacy anymore. I know our phones are listening to us and
Oh yeah.
all that
All
stuff,
the
but
time.
at least if I'm handing over my privacy, reward me a little bit,
Right.
make me feel warm inside or something. Like, it's so amazing how companies get so much stuff wrong.
Yeah. And it's not just, don't just send me a text message or an email that says happy birthday.
Mhm.
Give me something else. Give me an incentive, or better
Mhm.
yet, give me an
Mhm.
actual physical card or a little something
Mhm.
tchotchke, the days of the tchotchke.
Mhm.
So, gosh, when you're working on a project, what point does somebody usually come to you? They already have a brand established, or do you work with all facets, and then they need your help kind of helping guide their brand strategy, their brand guidelines? Do you do some of that work before, and then, they might work with another agency to do some of the ground
Yeah,
marketing
no,
stuff, and then,
we work with companies at all like stages of their life cycle. Like I said, we've named probably 100 companies. We've developed logos for 1,000 logos over the years. We've launching brands is something that we've got a specific expertise in, because you need that flash bang kind of instant attention. But like, we work with companies before they launch, and right through to companies have been around for 100 years or 50 years at least. So how we really work is, we don't sell packages, we don't sell time. Like, there's a lot of people who
Mhm.
say, come in, you can buy our startup package or enterprise package or whatever. So if you are a consumer brand and you wanted to work with me, the process is, we usually do a bit of a discovery call, see
Mhm.
if it's going to be a good fit, because I don't want to waste your time and I don't want you wasting our time. A lot of the times when companies are interviewing us, we're interviewing them
Yeah.
just as closely. We the goal for my company has always been to be the best in the world at a sort of medium-sized piece of the pie. We're not the best at everything. We
Mhm.
want to be the best at you know two or three skill sets. So if I'll interview brands and make sure that they want to work with us and they understand the type of work we do. And if it's not a fit, I'd rather we just part as friends, or I refer them to somebody else, or something like that, because like I like to think we've got like a 900% batting average of like projects we're really proud of. And I just, if we just took everything, I don't think we
Yeah.
could say that our batting average is that high. And man, we could make so much more money if we just took everything, and people would probably not know the difference and be happy with the work. But we're crazy about the quality of the work we do, and we have to really kind of like it as much as they do. And
Yeah.
we've even gone as far as firing clients. Like we say, this is what we promised you, we're going to live up to the end of our agreement, but we won't be taking any additional work
Mm.
because it just isn't what we thought it was going to be, and
Yeah.
you guys aren't working with us the way we thought we were going to work together, and stuff like that. So like I said, we could be way better and more successful if we were just less um, picky or protective. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but anyways,
Yeah, well, it's
um,
like soul sucking if you're working with a client that you don't really believe
mhm,
in their product, you're not passionate about it, right?
yes.
I mean, it just does,
Mm.
it's not motivating. It doesn't get your creative juices flowing.
Exactly. So once we do a discovery call, then we do a kickoff call. And the kickoff call, we try to get all the stakeholders on the call. I've got 30 questions that we run them through,
Nice.
where we try to understand pretty much every angle of the company. The questions are, I'd say 20 of the questions are we ask everybody, and 10 questions are unique to that brand and from research we've done. And then once we've done our kickoff call, we don't even tell you what we don't ask you what you want from us. We go back, we do a brainstorm session with our team, and then we go back to you and say, this is what we feel you need, this
Mhm.
is what we can do for you, do you agree? And a lot of times people are like, well, I was never even thinking about that, but yes, it's really interesting, I do think we need that. So we're not in the business of just like, hey, we're going to sell you 100 blog posts and
Yep.
45 social media posts and stuff like that, because if a brand would never come to us and say, I want you to do skywriting, or a brand would never come to us and say, I want you to do, things. It's really our creativity and our, mantra of wouldn't it be cool if, that comes up with these great ideas. And a lot of times we pitch the brands and they say this is too edgy for us, or
Mm.
it's not what we were thinking, could you do this? And sometimes we will do it, sometimes we won't. But like we try to stay really, really selfish to our strengths
Yeah.
and what we can do, and and maintain our brand. We want anybody to know, if our name was attached to something, that it was really cool and interesting and funny and different and successful.
And it's so funny. I was just going to ask you if there's ever a point when a client is like, nope, we're not doing that. Like, that's not something we want to do. And you just answered that. And then as well, on the flip side, coming up with the more unique ideas where they're like, oh, I wouldn't have thought about that. And maybe there's some hesitation, but then they go for it. And then they're like, oh yeah, this was the most brilliant idea ever.
So we've had both things. One, a major VP of marketing, I should say a VP of marketing for a major brand said, that is the greatest idea I've ever seen, but we will never do it. And
Mm.
I said, why? And he basically, I'm paraphrasing, gave me a whole education on corporate America, where he said, he makes $250,000 a year with another $250,000 in bonuses.
Wow.
Why would he take any risks in his job? So even though that's the coolest idea ever, his job isn't to take risks. His job is to just show 1% growth every year, 2% growth every year. And like stuff like that, I totally get it. It's just, it's heartbreaking. And, I've had people like, all my ideas are my babies, and whenever they don't, people don't like them, it's like my children are being aborted or something. I don't, I take all this stuff personally because we put our heart and soul into everything we do. And, a lot of times, if we come up with something so different and so unique, obviously we've got them all in a book somewhere, and we, go
Yeah.
through them. Maybe they'll work 2 years later or something like that. But, my goal is, if I have any legacy whatsoever, I want to go through that whole book and do it,
Right.
do them all one day.
So when you do get clients who sign off on the crazy ideas, when it's something that they maybe at first were hesitant about,
Mhm.
you know, what does that look like?
It's all about constant communication.
Yeah.
So it's about setting, clear goals, clear timelines, clear milestones, so they understand what to expect, and it's all about tempering their fears and making sure that everything is good, and getting them to sign off at different places. This is what it looks like so far, still good, and all these things. So it's not, hey, cool, we got permission now, just keep watching social media, you'll see something in a month, and boy, you're going to be excited. It's really about, showing every step of the way and showing the progress, and giving them the option to be close or not close. A project we don't talk about very often, but I think it's one of the funniest things we ever did was, a belt company came to us, and when we did our brainstorming and our process, we sort of netted out on the insight that belts are like the forgotten fashion accessory, and the only way you'd really notice a belt is if nobody was wearing any clothes. So we did a fashion show with naked models, male and female, completely naked, but we did it in a busy shopping mall in the food court without any permission
Oh my
during
gosh.
lunchtime on a Saturday. And we filmed it. We had like 25 GoPros hidden, and just literally, walked up with a ghetto blaster, like a sound machine, and we rolled out a red carpet, and these like four people, two male, two female, dropped their coats, and they just sort of went up and
Wow.
down the runway. And the joke of it was, we were hoping that we'd get kicked out. Like that would be the funny story. And when I say that we plan these things like crazy, we had a plan for security showing up in 10 seconds, 20 seconds,
Wow.
30 seconds, 40 seconds. And ultimately security didn't stop us
Oh
whatsoever.
my God.
And after about 2 minutes, the models didn't know what to do anymore. So they just picked up their coat and like sheepishly walked back to our meeting area. We thought there'd be like a really funny
Yeah.
payoff at the end of the video, to the, like, we're being chased by security, but sales went up on this product, like, and
Right.
so like how we did it was the food court was sunken, and there was a second level, and we had like, this was like a 20-person stunt. We had people on the second level have banners, and when the whole thing started, they used like zip ties, and they unfurled banners with the company name and information, and seven people went and bought belts, and people, filmed it
Amazing.
and showed up on social media and stuff like that. And it's like, and in that case, the idea initially scared the company, but then they were kind of like, just do whatever, like, it's cool, we trust you. And they were happy with the way it
Yeah.
ended up. There was news coverage, it was all positive, people got that it was a joke. Like some people were turned off by the nudity. It's so funny. It shows like what our society is like. Nobody complained about the women being naked. It was only the male nudity that
Oh my
turned
gosh.
people off, because we all agree men naked, it's not as beautiful, but it's still, we were being mutually, I don't know what word. I'm at a loss for all the words. I don't know if
Well,
it's,
you're being equal opportunity and
thank
showing
you.
men and women
That's what a,
So
that's what
they
a,
weren't wearing belts because I thought you were
oh
going to
no,
say,
they were wearing
okay,
belts.
they were wearing, okay.
That's all they were wearing.
Okay.
Yes, just a single belt.
Wow.
Mhm.
That is amazing. I know that I could talk to you all afternoon and just ask you more and more questions and get all your stories, but I know people can also read about them. They can find them on your website. How, what's next for you and for your company? And, you know, how do people find you?
So you can find me at theideaintegration.com, or, I'm Saul Colt, all one word, anywhere on the internet. What's next for us? We're doing some really great work for some brands right now. We're doing some, we're in the middle of planning a stunt for a company called neat.com, which is an online invoicing bookkeeping platform. We're working with Bustin' Boards, which is a skateboard brand. Yeah, like we're busy right now, but
Awesome.
happily busy, and a lot of work is going out the door, and like I said before, it's all stuff we're really proud of. And if there's anyone who has questions or would love to chat, please reach out. I'm usually save an hour or two a day for conversations with anybody.
Oh, nice. That's very generous.
Mhm.
Now, do you have a favorite quote or like a mantra you live by?
I don't know if it's like a mantra so much, but something I truly, truly have lived by is do cool things and tell people. Yeah, I think it's so important that you be your biggest advocate, and you be your biggest,
Yeah.
sort of hype person, because it's you can only ask your friends to scream about you so many times, and
Mhm.
because we're really proud. Some people think all the talking about myself is gross, but I'm really proud of what we do, and I know that if I'm not going to talk about myself, nobody else will. So
Exactly.
it's really important, if you're proud of something, to let everyone you know about it.
Marketing 101.
Mhm.
You can't just create it and expect people to come. You actually have to talk about it and talk about
Yeah.
yourself and what you're doing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this great conversation this afternoon, Saul. I really appreciate you coming on Your Brand Amplified, and we'll be back again next week. To our audience, thank you for listening another week, and I'll have Saul's information in the show notes so you know how to find him really easily.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad you think so.